Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we're digging into a piece of motivational philosophy that has this remarkable clarity about finance. It kind of moves the conversation away from just budgets and interest rates and towards something way more fundamental, discipline.
It's a really powerful deep dive. Our source material is from a solo motivational podcast, the Born Standing podcast, where the host, Kele, lays out this framework for success that's, rooted in this profound personal resilience.
Right, and he grounds it in his own story, that Oshodi Makoko spirit of Nigeria. But the financial insight he pulls from that, I mean, it's completely universal.
It really is. And it all hinges on this one simple four-word quote that sounds so obvious at first, but when you really sit with it.
Money is in the money business.
Exactly.
Right.
And if money has its own focused business, then the real question for all of us is, what business are we in?
That's the question.
Absolutely. The whole philosophy is built on this idea that you don't rise because life is fair. You rise because you stand, because you build structure. The mandate is to stop, waiting around for luck and actually start designing systems.
Okay, so let's unpack this core idea. I think our mission here is to really understand what the source defines as money's single, non-negotiable purpose.
And then contrast that with the chaotic ways a lot of us actually approach our finances.
Yes, and then look at the skills he presents as the blueprint, specifically this idea of radical discipline and delayed gratification.
It really forces a hard look in the mirror. We want you to consider, if money is so dedicated to the money business, this business of multiplication, how aligned are your habits with that goal?
The source suggests the real goal is to get into the alignment business.
I love that reframe.
Me too. So let's jump into the behavior of money itself. The second you hear that phrase, money is in the money business, you realize we project all of our human stuff onto it.
Oh, completely. We fear it, we worship it, we treat it like it's this mysterious, moody entity.
But this teaching says, no, money has no emotions. It's a force with a very specific function.
A very clear function. According to this framework, money wakes up every single day with the same simple job description: multiply, expand, grow, reproduce. That's it.
It has a singular, relentless focus on self-replication. It's just an agent of growth.
Which immediately changes the conversation from how do I get money to how do I become a suitable environment for this growth agent.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting for me. The claim that money often has more discipline than most people do.
Well, think about it not as cash, but as a system, like gravity or water flow. Gravity doesn't wake up and decide if it's in the mood to pull something down.
Right.
It just follows the law of physics. Money operates the same way. It doesn't argue, it doesn't complain or procrastinate. It just follows the structure, or the lack of structure you put it in.
It's almost like this non-sentient AI that's programmed just for optimization. If the structure is weak, it just scatters instantly.
But if the structure is sound, it optimizes and multiplies.
Yeah.
Predictably.
And that's why the source puts so much emphasis on where money flows.
Yes. It flows into
Really?
clarity, into systems, and toward people who treat it with respect. And that's not emotional respect.
It's structural respect.
Structural respect. Exactly.
So if I'm approaching my finances with fear or desperation or just plain ignorance, if I'm treating it like a lottery ticket, that's automatic disrespect.
It is. Because money sees that behavior as unsafe. If you're desperate, you take risks that money just fundamentally hates. If you're ignorant, you don't build the pathways for it to do its job.
So money seeks out preparation, stability, intelligence,
Above all else.
which sets up this critical opposition and moves us into the contrast between structure and struggle.
If money is so focused on multiplication, what are most of us focused on instead?
The source gives this very sobering, very relatable list of the wrong businesses to be in.
Yeah, he does. Kele talks about people being trapped in the survival business, or the bill-paying business, or the firefighting business.
All reactive states, all fear-driven.
Right. And even when people have some extra money, they might be in the emotional spending business. Spending based on your mood, not your strategy.
Or the worst one of all, the hoping and praying without strategy business.
That's the one.
I do want to push back on that a little bit, though, because it's easy to hear that list and get defensive. I mean, if you are genuinely living paycheck to paycheck, you are in the survival business. How does this philosophy account for, real economic limits?
And that is a crucial distinction. The philosophy doesn't argue that your background is irrelevant. Not at all. But it argues that it shouldn't be the determining factor of your future structure.
Okay.
The source uses his own story, that Oshodi Makoko spirit, the Nigerian hustle, as an example of raw resilience. That hustle is vital but it only creates these momentary gains until you channel it into a system.
So the big insight was that money doesn't respond to your struggle, but it does respond to the mindset you use to manage whatever resources you have, no matter how small.
You have to move from just raw struggle to deliberate, disciplined system building. It's about transforming that resilience into reliability.
Because if your financial life is just erratic and chaotic and governed by impulse,
Why would a disciplined entity like money want to stay and grow there? It's simple. Money comes to the most prepared person, not the person struggling the hardest emotionally. Preparation is structure.
Okay, so let's talk about the specific muscle needed for that preparation. This brings us to delayed gratification, which the source basically calls the original wealth skill.
Right. We tend to talk about wealth in terms of income, but this philosophy defines it first by internal control.
And the analogy he uses is just
It's perfect.
the fasting analogy. It's so profound. He says the same internal muscle you use to tell your stomach, not now, when you're hungry. That is the exact same muscle you have to use to tell your impulse, your desire for that new phone, or your bank account, wait. That just shifts the whole focus. It's not about being a genius with spreadsheets. It's about how disciplined you are with yourself.
If you can master the impulse to feed yourself immediately, you can master the impulse to reward yourself immediately.
And that self-mastery is everything, because true wealth building is just a long exercise in delayed reward.
Of course, saving, investing, compounding, these are all anti-instant gratification machines. If you can't tell yourself no on the small daily stuff, you'll never maintain the systems that demand long-term sacrifice for future growth.
Which is why he defines clarity and emotional discipline as wealth, no matter what your bank account says right now. The real difference isn't always income level.
It's the level of impulse control around capital. It's the consistency of the discipline, not the size of the paycheck.
And consistency, of course, needs structure. Which brings us to my favorite metaphor from the source material. Structure is where money feels safe. Kele says, and this is so memorable, money is shy. It does not enter where there is chaos.
I love that visualization. Just imagine money is this fastidious, disciplined little creature, and it peeks into your financial life.
And what does it see?
If it sees receipts stuffed in a drawer, maxed out credit cards, no clear idea where the last paycheck went, it just gets overwhelmed. It says nope and moves on.
So we have to understand money's allergies then. It's allergic to instability. What are the symptoms of that instability?
Disorganization is number one. Late bills, accounts you haven't looked at in months, then emotional spending, using money to patch up stress or celebrate without a plan.
Lack of structure. So no budget, no automated saving.
Confusion, just not knowing your numbers. And maybe the biggest allergy of all, scarcity thinking, where you just hoard money in fear instead of letting it flow and multiply according to a real strategy.
That makes perfect sense. If money's whole job is to multiply and your scarcity mindset keeps it locked in a cage,
You're obstructing its prime directive. So conversely, what does it want? What is it attracted to? Clarity. Automation, so it knows exactly where to go every payday without you having to think about it. It wants boundaries, strategy, and financial intelligence.
all of these things create a safe, predictable ecosystem.
An ecosystem where money knows it can do its job efficiently without being, randomly yanked out and destroyed by an impulse buy.
You know, we see this play out on a huge macro level, which really helps prove the point.
How so?
Well, why do international funds flow into stable economies? Because those economies have robust compliance, predictable laws, clear regulations,
That's structure. That's the trust factor.
and your personal money behaves in exactly the same way. When you build an environment where your money feels secure, where the systems are clear and automated, it stays.
It grows.
And critically, as the source says, it invites its friends. It attracts more capital because the stability you project proves you're a reliable steward.
A reliable steward, that's the key.
Which brings us to the final and maybe most important revelation here, the mirror effect and transformation.
This is where it gets really personal.
The source suggests that money isn't just a tool or a resource. It's the most honest diagnostic tool you have.
It's a mirror. It's just showing you the true condition of your internal world. Your financial outcome is basically the scorecard for your inner discipline, your habits, your emotional regulation.
So if your finances are a mess,
Look internally first.
that is a challenging idea for a lot of people. How does that internal state translate so directly into financial outcomes, according to this philosophy?
Well, think it through. If your mind is scattered, your money will be scattered across random purchases and, 5 different streaming services you forgot you had.
Okay, yeah.
If your personal habits are unstable, inconsistent routines, no follow-through. Your bank account will be unstable and volatile. If your internal structure is weak, your finances will be weak. You can't solve a financial problem with more money.
You have to solve a character problem with self-mastery.
You can't fix the reflection by polishing the mirror. You have to fix what's standing in front of it. The path to wealth is self-mastery first, financial strategy second.
So the things you really need to strengthen aren't just your investment portfolio.
No, it's your systems, your routines, your personal integrity, your time management, and maybe most of all, your emotional control. This whole deep dive, it's really a lesson in stewardship.
It's about becoming the responsible, trustworthy version of yourself.
That money will trust to multiply itself.
And that brings us right back to the beginning. If money is in the money business, then you, the listener, have to get into the transformation business.
The business of constantly aligning your habits and your structure with money's deep inherent need for growth and stability.
And this is the most empowering part of it all.
I think so too. Because while you can't control the global economy or interest rates or politics, you have total control over your personal discipline
Your mindset.
and the structural environment you build for your money. That is your sphere of influence. Your future, as the source so elegantly puts it, isn't waiting for a miracle.
Yeah.
It's not waiting for luck.
It's just waiting for structure and alignment.
So we'll leave you with a thought that really asks for some radical accountability. Based on these criteria, money's need for safety, for discipline, just evaluate your own behavior.
Do your daily habits attract capital, or are they actively chasing it away?
Are your decisions fundamentally multiplying money, or are they destroying it through impulse and chaos?
You already have the resilience to stand. That's the whole born standing spirit. The challenge now is to use that strength to finally build the precise structured systems that your money has been patiently waiting for.
Alignment is the destination. That's where the real sustained growth finally begins.